Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first Halls of Horror of 2021. I'm your host, True Crime Stories, and tonight, you all better fear the Ripper because Jack is coming to town. That's right, we're gonna talk Jack the Ripper. And this is also going to be a fun stream for you guys since I figured I might as well do something kind of embarrassing. I guess embarrassing for me, but my co-host and I are drinking tonight during the stream. Or this morning for me. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, I guess. Lol. Anyway, I am going to be doing a big swig of whiskey for every $10 donated. So, I know y'all are going to kill me with that stuff because you're sadistic, but that's what we're going to do. And if it gets to be too much, then I'll raise it a little bit more. But for now, $10 a drink. I have not yet started drinking, so that you guys could see all forms of me going down the damn rabbit hole. I think my co-host is here still. Are you back, Lolly? All right, 1 second. My host for today is a good friend of mine, and you probably know her from some of Broski's podcasts. Lolly, how are you doing tonight or this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I, unlike you, have already started drinking.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. You were ready for this, weren't you?
That's all right. I've been so excited for I don't know, however long it's been since we planned this. I'm so
It's at
pumped.
least 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is the highlight of my year already.
Oh yeah. So I think we came up with this when I was talking about stuff I was doing for the channel,
Yeah,
and you're like, we need to talk JTR.
that's right.
Oh no. Let's fucking do it.
Typing.
There we go. There we go.
Oh my God.
I
Was
don't
that
know.
was that you or was that
That,
me?
that was me. I don't know what's going on with
Oh,
YouTube.
that sucks.
Like, this is the second time now where it's disconnected me from the chat and everything. So I don't know what the deal with YouTube is. It's not me.
Sucks.
My connection's great.
No, I was
So
worried it was me because
no.
I was having some PC issues.
No, I'm
Um,
green on my end. It says there's an excellent connection. It's got to be YouTube. No, I don't have the VPN on this time. I remembered, Alex. I remembered to turn it off.
yeah, that does fuck with shit.
Yeah, that definitely fucks with shit,
Absolutely.
but that's not on today. I made sure to kind of get rid of that. I learned my lesson. I learned after I don't know how long. But
But oh my God.
all right, back to what I was asking. So, when did you first come across Jack the Ripper?
Oh my God. I think the first time was probably when I was in England with my parents. I was like probably like 12 or 13. So I was at that age where like you're a little shithead. So they're trying to like
Edgy little
they're
shithead,
like
yeah.
exactly, exactly. So they're like, all like trying to take me to museums and all the, cool ass historical stuff that like
Yeah.
right now I would appreciate, but at, 12 or 13, I look like a miserable there are pictures of me looking just like a miserable bitch the whole time. But I remember like something about Jack the Ripper when we were there, and I remember like being really afraid that he was still alive. He's not.
Really? No,
So it was an
definitely
irrational fear.
not. I mean, this is like
No.
1800s shit. Like, there's no
Yeah.
fucking way unless he's a
No.
vampire.
Right. No. So I was like super convinced that he was still alive. But yes, that was I think my first experience. And then over the years, I don't think I really cared all that much. Like I heard about it. And then when I was 18 or 19, I went to London again and did a Jack the Ripper tour with a study abroad group that I was with.
Yeah.
And, they walk you through all the Whitechapel stuff, and it was so much fun. And
That
after that, I
sounds
was
like
like,
fun, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like the tour guide was super into it too. So, like that always helps.
Oh god, yeah.
So So after that, I got like kind of into it, and I am also just into true crime generally. I like
I
serial
mean,
killers. What can I say?
if I'm not mistaken, we're both white girls, so that's not anything
That's
new.
that's right. We're basic white bitches.
Basic white bitches. And I'm the worst because I like my pumpkin spice latte. Go fuck yourself, anyone who says that's a bad thing.
They're so good though.
I know. They're
How
just
can like it be like? There's a reason people like them. Like
yeah,
there's a reason it's a meme.
yeah,
They're delicious.
delicious, fucking magically delicious.
Yeah.
On my end, I was always kind of fascinated with serial killers because on my mother's side of the family, it's like a lineage of cops. So I've always been kind of aware of what's going on with that stuff, and I
Okay.
wanted to be a cop at one point. So when I started
Um,
getting older in my teens, I started
bless you.
learning about these things, and I was just like anybody that's interested in this stuff, I was just captivated by like why the hell do these people do what they do?
Mhm.
And just looking into the different serial killers and criminals in general, it's just too fucking fascinating not to love.
I know. I
And
know.
Jack the
I feel
Ripper,
like weird
yeah.
though.
No. You're not
Am I weird for
weird.
enjoying it? Like it's so just so intriguing, I think.
It is intriguing. It's not like you can really do anything about it. It's just like you want to know who it is and why
Right.
and every
Absolutely.
little
You want to
intricacy.
absolutely. And you're like, why did they do this? And like, oh my God, like what was going through their minds at this time? It was just crazy. Well, you know what? If I'm weird, at least I'm weird with you. Cheers.
Exactly. Cheers to that shit, man. I'll take a shot for that. Cheers.
Yeah. That's right. You got to get it started.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I'll be
to
the only
be
one.
I'm trying not to get too into it yet because if people start fucking with me, I'll be really
Oh, sure.
fucked.
Sure. Well, then we'll just have to raise it
Yeah.
or maybe just, call it.
And the part
Just
two.
depending.
Part
Yeah,
two.
part two. I like it.
I
We
would
can
be
make this
down.
like like a
Fucking
recurring series.
I mean, there is a series for Jack the Ripper that's like 10 episodes long. So
We can be like,
I'm not.
eventually we'll get through it all.
Well, yeah, eventually. Eventually.
Several days. Several days of day drinking later.
All right, let's get into the
Perfect.
background of Jack the Ripper. Since I like to do
My.
things chronologically, that's a lot of keeping people
Well,
exactly on what's going on instead of bouncing all over the place like a goddamn madman.
I mean, that's kind of what I do. So if
Yeah,
if I interject with some weird ass shit, just be aware that's
that's
me.
fine. That's fine. But
She's organized. I'm a
yeah,
crazy person. Let's go.
hey, the opposites attract and opposites make fun. So, uh, if any of you do not know, Jack the Ripper is one of the most infamous serial killers in the world and is still, to this day, not caught. His serial killings went on in Whitechapel district of London in 1888. He's
Would that make him one
also
of the first serial killers?
not the first, but probably one of the first
Mhm.
recorded for the UK. Because
And
if you
probably
really
the
do some
first.
research, you if
Hmm.
when I went and did the my last video um, on the trio of Spanish killers, the earliest that I could find was a ring of Roman wealthy women that would
Oh wow.
give
Okay.
guys these poisoned concoctions and called them medicine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the earliest, and that was like 330 BC, something
Sure.
like that.
Sure. Yeah, it
So,
makes sense that it was the Romans.
yeah, yeah, the Roman women too.
Right. I
Uh,
don't blame them.
yeah, but that's the farthest back I could find. I mean, there probably were more, but they just weren't recorded, or
Sure.
anything that was recorded was destroyed. So that's not
So I'd imagine
surprising.
this one is at least the earliest with the most notoriety, or something
Yes,
like.
I would say
Yeah.
that. Yeah, especially since Jack has not been caught.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's also known by a couple other names. He's also called the Whitechapel Murderer and Leather Apron. I didn't know about the Leather Apron one. That was interesting.
So that one is super interesting, and that one I know a little bit about. I think Leather Apron could also be a separate serial killer.
Possibly.
Um, so I think it was somebody, as I recall, it was like some gang member or something, and he was like pretty notorious but excluded as the Ripper. I could be wrong about that, but we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah. So a little bit of background on the time period. Uh, this is the mid 19th century, and this is when Britain had a big influx of Jewish refugees and Irish immigrants that kind of
Okay.
overpopulated certain parts of London, especially the East End of London. Um, and most of these refugees were fleeing from Russia and Eastern Europe, who obviously was persecuting them. Everybody persecutes the Jews, poor things.
Nice.
But these areas were so overpopulated, um, and apparently it got up to about 80,000 people in 1888. And if you imagine how small Britain is in compared to the U.S. and Canada, they're very
Mhm.
small. That's a lot.
They're itty bitty.
Yeah.
So
So like,
like
go
there's
ahead.
all kinds of really cool sorry. I like jump in when I
You're
think of
fine.
something.
Go for it.
So I was just thinking like that period, I'm kind of a history nerd, and I really that period of history is actually really fascinating with all, the people and how they were living at the time. I mean, imagine like the dirtiest, most disgusting, like cramped place that you can think of and like magnify it by 100, and that's how they were living. There were people who couldn't afford anything,
Yeah.
especially like renting. So when they would sleep, what they did was they put them in basically like church pews, and they put
Mm-hmm.
a rope in front of them, and they slept up against the rope leaning over in like a church pew. That was like how people slept if they were lucky. I
Jesus.
mean, that yeah, I mean that to me just is like it's so crazy like people sleeping like that on the
Yeah, they called it
regular.
a lean-to or a hangover. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
part of it.
Yeah, if they were lucky. I mean, that's so crazy to me. They just these it was the level of poverty is just really staggering. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
ugh, yeah, so
Uh
it was a lot of very poor people with very few prospects, I think. Is
Fucking Mike. Okay, Mike has actually arrived now. I know a lot about Jack. She's a homunculus formed from the souls of aborted babies in the shape of a little girl. Anime never led me wrong. Mike,
Mike.
you don't shock me anymore.
No,
You don't
he
shock me
doesn't. That's the
anymore. I
worst part
expect
about
this
it.
shit at this point. I'm surprised when you don't talk like this.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Exactly.
but yeah, it like you were saying, this part of history in this particular area, and I would think everywhere at this point, um, it's extreme. There's a lot of people in small parts of these communities, and that just takes away any opportunities to have a decent livelihood or a decent lifestyle, which results to violence, criminal activity, robbery, alcohol dependency,
Prostitution,
prostitution, obviously, which
as we
is
will
what
see.
we're gonna get into. Mm.
Yep.
Uh, it's kind of like the Great Depression situation where you got to do whatever you got to do in order to just eat.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
these people were flooding into the cities and there were really no job prospects.
yeah,
They were just, you know, existing. It's
yeah,
really, I mean, it's really scary when you think like, I mean, you couldn't work, and that obviously like women at the time there's only so much you could do.
yeah,
But even for men, it wasn't easy to find a good job. And I think that's why a lot of people were like alcoholics, and then
yeah,
obviously why a lot of women were prostitutes, at least
yeah,
sometimes. Like there were, I think we'll see as we go through this, but like some of the women who were victims were like part-time prostitutes or married, you
yeah.
know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Crazy. So we
That's
think
not
of,
shocking.
yeah, just, I mean, you think of like the dirtiest, grimiest, like worst place you could
Yeah.
possibly be, and that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah. And what's even worse is this is like one of those times where there's really, really thick amounts of social tension because of the
Yes,
economic problems going on. Like,
yes.
this is around the time when police intervention went haywire, when anti Semitism really started getting big. Uh, this is also around the time when Bloody Sunday occurred. I'm sure you've heard of Bloody Sunday.
Bloody Sunday, maybe. I don't
Uh,
know. I
this
don't
is
know if I have heard of it.
this is it was a big demonstration on November 13th of 1887, where protesters were protesting the unemployment of and the unemployment and coercion of Ireland. So basically, they were pissed, like they are still, that Ireland's being treated improperly by the UK. Um, and
Damn Irish.
yes,
Never happy.
yes, yes. So what happened is that it got so bad that police and the British Army got involved, and it got to a point where rioters started attacking the police with knives, any kind of weapon they could get a hold of, kicking the
Oof.
shit out of police horses. Um, and at this point, it even the infantry from the army had bayonets getting the crap out of these people. It was just a big war over the Irish being treated improperly.
All right.
Basically, a protest gone wrong, like we see so much today. Not to that extent, but
So this is also a time period that I think in the United States, um, 5 Points in New York was kind of a thing, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's Alex. To be fair, nobles in England at the time were poisoning themselves with lead-based makeup, not to mention wallpaper. Fun
Yeah,
fact: the
everything has
green.
lead.
Yeah, yeah. It's so crazy. Anyway, sorry,
No,
tangent.
you're good. And around this time in that year, um, in 1888, it became a really big problem where women were attacked in the East End.
Yes.
Um, and this is where that stemmed off of. Apparently, there are 11 murders attributed to the Whitechapel murderer. Not all of which we don't know whether or not all of them are attributed to Jack,
It
but
appears that there are
the
five,
canonical five are definitely attributed to him.
and then there
Um,
are some additional ones on either side of
yes,
those.
exactly. Those are the only ones that we know for sure are due to Jack. But you're gonna find out later. This is one of those things that has everybody's got opinions like they got buttholes.
There's
Everybody's got an opinion.
there's like 30 different scenarios of what
Yeah,
could possibly have happened and what were. I mean,
yeah,
it's really like it's hard to do like a summary of it because there's
yeah.
so many different theories,
Oh yeah.
but we'll try.
Oh god, yeah.
We are game.
Oh yeah. It's some real fucky shit. Um,
Yeah.
but it seems that the first two um aren't even that came up that were attributed to the Whitechapel murders, or believed to be part of the Whitechapel murders, aren't even the canonical five.
Mm,
Because apparently these murders went from April 3rd, 1888 to February 13th of 1891. That's the spread
okay.
of these murders. And the
With most
first,
being in 88.
yes. And the first two of these, which have a lot of the same modus operandi and why it's kind of thought to be attributed, is because it has very similar modus operandi to Jack's, with um, beatings to the face, that or mutilation of the face that got progressively worse.
Stabbings.
Yes, stabbings, disembowelings, genital mutilation. And the first two were Elizabeth Smith, or Emma Elizabeth Smith, and Martha Tabram. Which, again,
Martha's the one a lot of people are like pretty convinced is actually a Ripper victim.
yeah.
Martha, there's some
Yeah.
there's some things to be said about Martha.
Yeah. So, with the first being Emma Smith, and this happened, they think, about 1:30 a.m. on the 3rd of April, 1888. She was sexually assaulted and robbed while in Whitechapel, more than likely whoring herself out,
Yeah.
to put it bluntly. And she was found with her face being bludgeoned. She had a cut on her ear. It seemed like there was trauma to her genital area, like a blunt object was forcefully inserted into it. There was rupturing of her peritoneum, which is like a membrane that's on the lining of the abdominal cavity. So basically, whatever it was that was put in her was shoved in so forcefully, it damaged the tissue in between her hoo-ha and her diaphragm, which is crazy. She did not die directly after the attack, but she did end up developing a disease called peritonitis, which is inflammation of the peritoneum. And it just has severe pain, swelling of the abdomen, insane fevers, weight loss, and eventually, obviously, in this time, medical practices were not very good.
No.
So
God, probably better to just like, it sucks to say, but like for her to have just died in the original attack probably would have been better. It's a really shitty thing to say, but good lord, considering I don't think I'd want Victorian medicine.
No, I don't need you giving me leeches. Fuck you.
No. Did they still do leeches then? Or were they over that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Lead. Apply more lead.
Sure. Apply more lead. Lead salve. She did die the following day while in the hospital, but before that, she said that she was attacked by 2 or 3 men, and one of them was supposedly a teenager. This was linked by the press, which is typical of fucking journalists. Obviously, yes, they're gonna take something.
This about this time, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna take something that's similar and connect the dots.
Yeah.
That's now another for reattaching the body parts. Yep, they still do leeches. Yep. Okay.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Alex, for to be fair, nobles in England and the time were poisoning themselves with lead-based makeup. Yes. Cult was very popular at the time. Yeah. It could. That's one of the theories, that it could be attributed to a ritual. That's part of it.
That's the isn't that the royal conspiracy, as seen in the movie From Hell?
Yeah.
With Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Let me try and answer that for you, Mr. Habs. Yes, she did have family. She was a mother of 2 and she was 45. She had a son and a daughter. And I don't think she was married. But from what I'm seeing in the information that is archived of Emma Elizabeth Smith, yes, she did have family. And yes, she was 45 years old. So that answers your question about family and age. The next supposed case is, like we said earlier, Martha Tabram. And she was murdered 4 days later on the staircase landing at George Yard in Whitechapel, August 7th, 1888. This one was a little bit more brutal in comparison to Emma because there were 39 stab wounds in total to her throat, lungs, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and abdomen, with additional knife wounds inflicted to her chest area, her breastises, and her genitalia. Um,
A lot of rage.
yeah, it's thought that it could possibly have been done with a penknife, but we're not really sure. And it's thought that she maybe the person that killed her was right-handed. Except the difference between the two, Emma and Martha, was that Martha did not have any signs of sexual assault or rape.
Emma, I think we can discount as a Ripper victim.
Yeah.
If there were, I mean, it's like I get the similarity in the MO and
Yeah.
the the whole all of that, but the part that for me kind of makes her not a Ripper victim is the being attacked by multiple people.
Yeah. But then again, you also got to think of it this way: with the disease that she died from, she's got fever, so there's probably delirium. She's not going to remember things correctly.
True. True. When did she get to the hospital?
She got to the hospital the same day she was attacked.
So I wonder if the delirium would have set in so soon, or
probably if
yeah.
if it was so bad that she died the next day.
Well, she was getting
I would
hit
say yeah,
all over them, like the head.
yeah. So I would say that yeah, she probably was in a state of delirium, and that's really fucking sad and really scary.
Oh yeah.
But what the reason why they're both kind of put together was because of how close the date and locations were. And because of the modus operandi of, or similar modus operandi of Jack the Ripper.
Do we know if the police at the time were considering them to be part of it?
I don't think
or
so. I think
press?
it was, from what I'm seeing in here, from what I'm reading, it looks like it wasn't connected by the police yet. It was more connected by the media.
Okay. Yeah, so the media the media is an interesting story in this time as well, is when there starts getting really sensationalized and they're like morning papers and night papers and everybody has a paper all the time and there's always interesting stuff coming out and everything has to be more exciting than the next. Yeah.
Everything has to be more sensationalized. But to be fair, this particular case study does get more violent over time, so kind of comes with the territory. Now, here is where we get into the meat and potatoes, the canonical 5.
Yes.
And these are the 5 that everybody is familiar with if you are familiar with Jack the Ripper. The first of which happened on the 31st of August in 1888, approximately 3:40 a.m., where Mary Ann Nichols' body was found in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. It was said that she was seen an hour prior, alive, by a Mrs. Emily Holland, basically who she shared a bed with at the lodging house, or the whorehouse, I guess you could call it. And was walking towards direction of Whitechapel Road when she was last seen alive. When her body was found, there were 2 deep cuts to her throat that severed. Basically, her throat was severed with 2 deep cuts. And one of which went all the way down to her vertebrae. So it literally went almost all the way, almost completely cut her fucking head off. Is basically
almost decapitated, yeah.
Yeah. There were stab wounds to her, 2 stab wounds to her genitalia. And it looks like the lower part of her abdomen was completely ripped open. She was basically disemboweled. So her throat was slit, almost, her head completely cut off. She had stab wounds to her womanly parts, and she was disemboweled.
Yep.
And all of them seemed to be, coming from the same knife. Obviously, if it's the same one person, the same person doing these, it's going to be the same murder weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. As if he loathed her. Yeah.
Exactly.
And they didn't get any better from there, because the next victim, Annie Chapman, was discovered sorry,
It's okay.
a week later on the 8th of September at around 6 a.m. And her body was found near the steps to the doorway or backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. She had the same the same wounds of, like, the attempt to cut her head off. Her abdomen was completely cut open. It wasn't just slashed, it was completely cut open. It looked like her skin was pulled back to the point where the skin on her abdomen was touching her left shoulder.
Oh.
And her intestines were pulled out and put in that similar spot, or they were removed and placed on her right shoulder. So basically, skin was going to the left shoulder. Her intestines were on the right shoulder when she was found. Really fucking gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Pulling all kinds of parts out.
And what was he literally pulled parts out this time, because during her autopsy, her uterus and part of her bladder and lady bits were removed. So,
souvenirs.
Yes. Trophies.
Yay,
trophies! And it's gonna get worse, ladies and gentlemen. It's just gonna
Where do you
get worse.
keep body parts?
I don't know. They didn't have coolers back then.
Yeah.
I don't know. That shit got stink.
Hello. Thank
And
you for admiring my trophy body part. Sorry.
Oh, uh-oh.
Sorry.
Uh-oh. Here we go. $5 from Jessica. Does this make 5 shots or 1? It's $10 a shot, Jessica. I'm not dumb, but I will give you this one. But I know better than to have it at $5, because I'll get you'll fuck me up. I know that.
Inundated.
Shot. I know this
You
is gonna get bad. Huh?
You did it?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it to her because she's one of my girls. I'll be generous for the 1.
Hell yeah.
And like I said, this is just gonna get worse, ladies and gentlemen. It's just gonna get worse.
Or better. I mean,
better. It gets more interesting, I guess, if you're into this kind of stuff like we are, but I mean, it just gets more gross and detestable with what happens to these later victims.
Oh, that part gets worse, yes. Yes. No, I was talking about the drinking.
That, yeah.
Murders.
Yeah, that's different. I was talking about the murders.
You see this guy, like, tagging us? To look at his book or something?
I'm not. Is it on Twitter?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at Twitter right now.
He really wants us to look at his book.
You want to shoot me a link?
Or I don't
just,
think you.
Yeah,
I don't think you want this.
No.
I don't. No, this looks like spam of some sort.
Probably.
It's the same exact comment. It's like he's going through and, like, copying and pasting the same thing on everyone.
Oh god, I gotta do another one. Jessica for 15. Fine here plus another lol. Yeah, I love you too.
Get some. Oh, this is gonna end well.
Oh, this is gonna end really well. But I expect this from Jessica. She's the one that likes to take videos of herself while she's more than drunk and send them to us girls in Discord. It's hysterical. It's the funniest thing on the planet.
Oh my god, I bet.
He's probably got a bot set up. Yeah. I'm gonna check this so that I can.
Shot,
everybody!
It's perfect.
I'm not seeing being tagged on Twitter, so unless it's on.
Oh my god, is it just
Wait,
me?
hold on. It might be my other account. I have 2.
It is. It is your other account.
Nope, I don't see it.
What the hell?
I think they just tagging you.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe they just like you more. I mean, I don't put out that I'm a woman most of the time. So. I mean, you're kind of fucked.
It's alright. It's alright. People leave me alone for the most part. I think I'm too scary.
You scare them.
Or something.
You're too spoopy for them.
Really horrifying.
And I mean, this just makes it worse because they just know how fucked up you are mentally.
Exactly. She has a hard time texting. No drunk texting. No. Drunk texting's terrible.
Me, drunk plus texting equals nope, yeah.
Absolutely not.
It's because I have a hard... Yeah, she, like, literally responds to us in video. It's the funniest fucking thing, and I especially like at the end, she usually gives these, like, really creepy faces, so I take screenshots of it and send it to her and be like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy is this bitch? 11! I love her. I love her.
Phenomenal.
She's the best. And there's a little bit more regarding, Chapman. She was apparently seen around 5:30 a.m. alive, just outside the place she was murdered. And in the company of a dark-haired man wearing a brown deerstalker hat and a dark overcoat.
What is a deerstalker hat?
Let's look. Oh, it's the detective hat.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh my god, it is!
Yeah, it's a Sherlock Holmes hat. Cool!
Holy shit. It is. I never knew what that was called. I always just said it was a Sherlock Holmes hat.
Right, now
Amazing.
we know. The more you learn something new every day.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Beautiful.
But yeah, she was seen with a guy.
What if we learned tonight? Deerstalker hat. Yes. Remember that. Use it in a conversation sometime.
Put it in, file it back in the back of your brain. But
that's right. Just pull that one out in like some random conversation and thank us later.
This is the take of what was seen with her, with Chapman, or when she was last seen, per witnesses. Again, guy was dark-haired, dark clothing, had a quote-unquote shabby genteel appearance.
Shabby genteel?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's my, like, daily.
And the eyewitness, Elizabeth Long, this is the person who's reporting this, remembers the man asking Chapman the question, "Will you?" and Chapman saying yes. Don't know exactly what that was to do with, but, you know, that's the last thing that she heard when she was seen alive 30 minutes prior to her body being found. So here's the turn of events for these last two. Nichols was seen at around 2:40 a.m. going towards Whitechapel by a roommate, I guess you could call it. And she was found at 3:40 a.m. That's her body. With Chapman, she was last seen at the same spot where she was found murdered at 5:30 a.m., and her body was found 30 minutes later.
This is all within...
Yeah. Within short amounts of time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense with the amount of people.
Yeah.
Fear the Ripper indeed.
Fear the Ripper, Conv!
Man is a ghost.
That's right. And now is when we get the fun parts. And shit escalates. The double whammy. Of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Both of which were killed in the same day in the morning hours of September 30th, 1888. Stride was the first one to be found at about 1 a.m. In Dutfield's yard off of Burner Street in Whitechapel. The cause of death was obviously a clear-cut incision on her neck, about 6 inches, that severed her carotid artery and her trachea. Um, yeah, it basically went. It looks like it went from the bottom of her neck all the way up to where her jaw was. So it's a vertical line.
Ugh.
That's pretty. That's gross. I mean, because like in the other two, I would assume it's a horizontal and it was
Yeah.
deeper.
Yeah.
This one was more deliberate.
Eh.
Um, there wasn't any further mutilations of the body, and this is where things get kind of weird with this and kind of murky. It's because of how um she was found, and the lack of the typical amount of mutilations, that it could be Jack the Ripper, it could not be Jack the Ripper, or if it is Jack, he almost got caught, so he had to bounce before he could do what he likes to do.
Well, and there was indeed someone who was in that area, I
Yes.
believe,
Yes.
who might have caught him in the act.
That is probably true. What is known is that witnesses told police they saw Stray in the company of a man on the evening of 29 December and in the early hours of the date she died on the 30th. But the descriptions are definitely different. Some of them say he was fair. Others say he was dark. Some said he was kind of shabbily dressed. Some said he was well dressed. So it's nobody has a concrete description of the guy that they saw her with.
So wasn't she the one where somebody did like walk almost, I don't know if they almost caught him or what, but when they found her, it was like some like Jewish, like, I don't know if it was a synagogue or some just sort of like meeting place, but it was right by that, I think, where this murder was. And there was a guy that came out, and I think it might have been the guy who found her. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a guy who was in the area.
I think the name you're looking for is Israel Schwartz.
Yes.
Yeah, he said that he saw some men in that area, or he observed two different men in that area around that time.
I think so, yeah. I could that
Yeah.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And from what I'm gonna take
like
back my
mixed up the
statement of
movie.
the I'm taking back the statement of the horizontal. It looks like it's a diagonal from like where her, I guess her clavicle, is that what it's called? All the way up to underneath her chin.
Oh.
That's what the picture shows. So that's oof. Big woof.
Yeah.
And the next one is Eddowes, Catherine Eddowes, who was found in I guess it's called Mitre Square.
Yep.
About 45 minutes after Elizabeth was found. That's really fucking quick. If it's the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was, I mean, how far away? If he was interrupted,
he'd have time to just get. Yeah, he'd find another. Obviously, it wasn't hard to find ladies of the night at that time.
No. Or just people generally. I mean, it was just like the whole place was like mobbed with people doing business at all hours of the night.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like his preferred targets were ladies of the night, though.
Yes, they were. Absolutely, they were.
So it wouldn't take him very long to find one.
No.
And do his thing.
No.
But she was found at about 1 a.m. This is a clear cut, the same singular incision to her neck. That severed. Wait, nope. That's I'm reading something. Never mind. Back up. But her throat was severed. Her abdomen was ripped open. She was disemboweled. With this one really deep, jagged wound, and her intestines were pulled out and put on her right shoulder, just like one of the previous victims. This time, her left kidney and a big part of her uterus was gone, or removed and taken. Her face was severely disfigured. Um,
Wasn't there
around
pictures of all of these too? Like they're
yes,
all online. You can like see like they
yeah,
take death pictures. This is a Victorian thing. They take death pictures
yep.
and they're all online.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna show them because we'll be fucked.
No, no, no,
But
no, no.
uh,
But you can like the yeah they're even on the Wikipedia page.
yeah. Mr. Habs, I think it was the media that dubbed him Jack the Ripper. That's usually who dubs all serial killers is the media.
That's what I responded. It
Yeah.
was so I think what happened was there were I don't know if
There
we're
were some
getting into
letters.
the letters, yeah, the
Yeah.
letters at all, but like I think there was a letter and it was signed Jack the Ripper,
Oh yeah, we're
and
gonna
I
get into the
believe
letters.
okay, good. All right, well then I won't. Then I
I'm
won't do
just
it
going
now.
chronologically here.
No, of course, of course.
But her face was fucked. Um, she had her nose severed, her cheeks were slashed. Um, the cuts were like a quarter of an inch to an inch and a half. Um, through each of her eyelids. It's like her eyelids were incised. Um, there was a triangular incision, uh, from her eye and then down each of her cheeks. Her part of her earlobe was cut off and found in her clothing. And the post-mortem said that it took at least 5 minutes to do these.
To do the mutilations?
Yeah, at least 5
How
minutes.
how do you determine that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's,
The
I
police
think
surgeon determined it, I guess. So,
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how do you determine how long it takes to like cut somebody up? I mean,
I
I
mean,
would have
there are some theories that kind of explain that, but we'll get to that later.
yes, true.
Um, it seems like the last person to see Eddowes was a local cigarette salesman, Joseph Lawand, something like that. I don't know how you
That
fucking
seems right.
pronounce it.
It's right.
Um, who was with a couple of friends and passed through the square just before the murder. He said that he saw a fair-haired man with a shabby appearance with a woman, possibly Eddowes. But his friends couldn't verify that description. They probably weren't paying attention.
And a lot of these come too, not just like not from the inquest, but from media reports too.
Yeah.
So there are definitely like when you hear these witness reports, there are a lot of people who were just doing it to get in the paper.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't really, and this is one of the reasons why we're probably never gonna find out who this guy is or girl, who this person is.
Jill the Ripper.
Yeah, Jill the Ripper. That's another theory. But we
Yes.
probably will never find out who this person is because of the witness statements are so all over the place. They're not credible. And it's been so long since these things have happened. There's no way the DNA evidence has survived. It's got to be severely degraded at this point.
Right. And then there's also the fact that like, we only know so many people that were alive at that time. Like it was like a teeming mass of humanity in London at that time. Like there's only so many people that we know existed. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't like there are so many people who are just totally unaccounted for that and don't appear in any record anywhere that
exactly.
you just can't.
Yeah.
You'll never know.
It looks like Eddowes' bloody apron was found at the entrance of a tenement in Goulston Street about 2:55 a.m. So about an hour and some odd minutes.
Yes.
After her body was found. There was a chalk inscription on the wall above the apron that read, "The Jews are the men that will not." I know it is. I know it's Jews, but I'm this
Jews.
Jews. That's what it's spelled out as.
Yeah,
It's spelled out as JUWES. So,
It's weird.
Jews are the men that will not be blamed for anything.
For nothing. Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing.
Yeah.
No,
Somebody.
that is incomprehensible.
Yeah, there's no way. Like, it's very obvious that this is either a tactic to kind of divert attention from the person who actually did this thing, or somebody found that apron and was just like, haha, I'm gonna make a political statement out of this shit.
Or the graffiti was there already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's one of the things that could have happened.
Yeah, especially because it was like in a Jewish area.
Yeah, and that was very commonplace in Whitechapel because of how anti-Semitic people were at the time, or becoming anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the final of the 4? Yes, it is. The final of the canonical 5 is Mary Jane Kelly. It was arguably the worst case.
I don't even know if it's arguable.
Yeah. So if you guys have been eating, I hope that you can deal with you're not very visual people, because when I start talking about describing what they found and how she looked, you're probably gonna be sick.
There are pictures of this online.
Oh yeah, it's gross.
There are pictures.
I'm looking at it right now.
I cannot tell what.
I cannot imagine how the cops reacted when they saw that.
I mean, thank God it's in black and white, because it just seems...
Yeah, it probably would be worse. Probably would be 1,000 times worse if it was in color.
Oh God, if it was in color, I'd be able to look at it.
Oof, yeah. Her body was found at her home in 13 Miller's Court of Dorset Street at 10:45 a.m. on November 9th, 1888.
So this was the only one found indoors.
Yep. Her face
Notably, he had a lot of time.
Yes. Yeah, he had a lot of time with this one. Her face was quote-unquote hacked beyond all recognition. Her throat was severed down to her spine, and her abdomen almost emptied of all organs. Her uterus, kidneys, and one breast were placed beneath her head, and other viscera from her body was placed beside her foot. And around the bed by her abdomen was like all over her guts were on her side, around her sides of her body. And her heart was missing.
Yeah, it's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Like what? Didn't he like take pieces out and like stick them on like the night table?
Yeah.
Like the bedside table?
Yep.
Like
he took sections of her abdomen and thighs and put it on the bedside table.
It's decorating.
Yeah. Which is really, really fucking sick. And not the good kind of sick, the kind of sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of these were connected because they were all done at night or in the early hours of the night. All of them were on or close to the weekend. And usually around the end of the month or the week after the end of each of the month.
Yeah.
Odd. And it's obvious that the escalation because of the mutilations became more severe with each murder. The only one being the exception is Stride, obviously because he got caught.
Mm-hmm. So he had to kill someone else.
Yeah.
That's the most widely accepted theory, at least.
Yeah. So when looking at these 5, Nichols was not missing any organs. Chapman's uterus and sections of her bladder and lady parts were taken. Eddowes had her uterus and left kidney removed with her face mutilated. And Kelly was extensively eviscerated.
Yeah.
And her neck, the tissue of her neck was severed so severely to the bone, and the heart was missing.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't even look like a person.
No.
Like, I don't know how you can even do that with a fucking knife. I mean, it looks like somebody bombed, like a bomb hit her when she was asleep.
You know what it looks
It's
like
that
to me
bad.
looking at the picture?
Hmm.
You know how people make clay sculptures, and if you screw it
Yeah.
up and you punch it, it makes that like divot on the inside of the face area?
Yep.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. Like, I don't know
Um,
where, like, is that her leg? That's kind of part of her leg. I can't even tell. I don't even know
uh,
what's what. Very
I
hard
can
to
tell
tell.
what's what. Both of her legs are attached.
Are attached?
Yeah, they're still attached to her body.
Okay,
And it
I'm
looks
blowing
like
this up.
everything was
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
pulled out in between her legs.
But like, it looks like he like filleted her fucking thigh.
Yep, he did.
Oh,
And he put the parts on the stand.
I don't know
Mm.
how what happened to her face is possible with a knife.
I don't know.
I just
But
don't.
it's aggression at
I
its
don't.
finest.
I mean, it's crazy. I just
Oh,
don't
yeah.
understand how that's. Ugh.
It's gross and fascinating at the same fucking time.
Oh yeah. It's so. I think in a
Uh,
way that like I don't know. These seem less real to me than the more recent ones. I think just because they're so old. Like we're looking at this picture, it's in black and white. It doesn't even kind of like it doesn't really even seem real, right?
yeah.
Like it's almost like a movie or
Uh,
some.
to address your theory, Dev, that is probably that's a very good theory because a lot of serial killers do have aggression towards ladies in the night. Has something to do with their mother, or it's a religious thing.
Yeah,
It's
I
usually one of the
mean,
two.
yeah, I mean, for somebody who purportedly was anti-Semitic, it's not like he was like out there killing like Jews or anything.
Yeah.
He didn't. I mean, seemed to be just women who,
Yeah, there's really no evidence that the guy was anti Semitic
yeah,
or girl, whatever.
other than other than that weird graffiti, but I don't even know if that's anti-Semitic. I can't even tell. I have no
Yeah.
idea what it even means.
Because I mean, it
Double negative.
could have been there prior to, and he just threw
Yeah,
it there to throw people off his scent, like they had any scent to begin with.
yeah. So like, okay,
Um,
the Jews are the men who will not be blamed for nothing. Somebody translate that, please, into like remove the double negative. I don't understand what's going on there.
um,
I mean, doesn't
it's
a double
basically like
negative equal a positive?
it's basically I think it's a botched English of the Jews are the men that won't be blamed for anything. I think it's a botched version of that because remember, a lot of people at this time have shit education.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Huh.
Public school system at its finest.
They didn't. Did they even have public schools? God,
I don't know.
those poor kids were able to go to school. That'd be, I'm sure, a blessing. But I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. The Victorians were not the
Yeah.
most progressive, I would say.
Yeah.
Progressive?
But a big reason why the canonical five are considered canonical and deemed by it no, across the board as being Jack the Rippers is because of two big reasons. One of them is because in 1894, Sir Melville Macnaghten, who was the assistant chief constable of the Metropolitan Police Service and head of the CID, Criminal Investigation Department, wrote a report that stated the following, quote, "The Whitechapel murder had 5 victims and 5 victims only," end quote. And the
McNaughton
second,
report.
yes, and the second being that they were linked together in a letter by police surgeon Thomas Bond to Robert Anderson, who was the head of the London CID on November 10th, 1888. So two big reasons why is because two very influential people in the criminal justice system at the time both agreed that it was just the 5 victims. And
Wasn't
just
it
the
the
5 victims.
theory of the chief? Who was investigating it? Now I can't remember.
Yeah, he was the chief constable.
What was the guy? Oh, crap. I'm trying to Aberline. Aberline.
I don't see anything about that in here, so I don't know.
Okay. Sorry. I know Aberline was like the person who was looking into this right in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was the one who said the 5. I'm looking at it now. Oh, it might be he had a suspect.
Possible.
But we can get to that.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
I want to get through what could possibly be the whole murder situation and then go back to where the theories come from. But however, there is a definite divergence here from what is said to be the canonical 5 and what authors, particularly 2 of which, Stuart P. Evans and Donald Rumbelow, argue that it's a Ripper myth. 2 of the 5 are not the Ripper victims. The only 3 that they will attribute are Nichols, Chapman, and Eddowes. And they're saying that's definitely the same perpetrator.
Nichols, Chapman, those are the first 2. And then Eddowes was on the double event, the second one.
Yes. They don't...
So they're not counting Stride or Mary Kelly.
No, they're not counting. Those 2 are taken out. Which I think is stupid. But that's my theory.
I mean,
it's
also as good as anyone else's.
Also supposed that there are 6 murders between Tabram and Kelly that were Jack the Ripper. So this person doesn't include what's her fucking name?
Emma Smith?
Yes. Smith was
the first one we talked about.
She was not he's not considered by this theory to be one of the victims. The 5 the 6 after are considered to be his victims by several different authors, yeah.
So Tabram to Kelly and then Dunn?
Something like that. Yeah.
And then no more after Kelly.
That's what this particular theory is. So there's 3 right now. There's 1 where the only murders that are attributed to Jack the Ripper are the canonical 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's the theory that only 3 of the canonical 5 are actually attributed to Jack the Ripper, which is the 3 Nichols, Chapman, and Eddowes. And then there's the 3rd theory that 6 of these 8 victims that we talked about are Jack's. The only one that's not attributed to him being Elizabeth Smith. Those are the 3 big theories that we're seeing when it comes to these murders.
Okay.
However,
yeah, I was waiting for the however.
However, there are more theories that pose there are more victims after Kelly. Although the big consensus is that Kelly is the final murder of Jack. For various reasons. Could be because the person died, they could be imprisoned, they were put in a mental institution, or they just left Britain altogether.
And came to the U.S.
That's another one that's possible. That's another one that's possible. We're jumping ahead of ourselves here.
It's my favorite one.
Yeah. But the Whitechapel murders have 4 other victims that came after the canonical 5 in their little file that are, again, there's 4 more victims in that Whitechapel murders file. The
Ruh-roh.
first is 26-year-old Rose Milet, who was found strangled to death in Clark's Yard High Street, Poplar, on the 20th of December. No sign of struggle, and it's believed she either accidentally hanged herself with her collar while she was drunk, or she killed herself.
Yeah, strangulation doesn't seem.
No,
You
that
don't
doesn't.
you don't go from like mass evisceration to
That's.
strangulation.
I don't know of any murderers or serial killers that regressed in their escalation.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. It's usually they
I mean, they
escalate.
either they escalate or they just stop, like
Stop
Golden State.
altogether. Like,
Yeah, there's no like
there's
walking
no
back.
de-escalation of that. That it's
Hmm.
always them chasing a new high. It's like when you're
Yeah,
on drugs. Like,
yeah,
at first your immunity or your immunity to it is very low, where you can only take a little bit and you're just fucked up, and then it gets to a point where you have to take more and more and more and more to get that same initial high, that same,
yeah.
like,
Whatever you're getting from doing it
yeah.
in the first
And it's the
place.
same thing with serial killers. It's the same exact thing. The
I don't see strangulation. Like I don't see him doing it. I just it seems like a.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also not like there weren't a lot of murders at this time anyway.
Oh, there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
um the next one is Alice Mackenzie, who was murdered shortly after midnight on the 17th of July 1889, the following year now, in Castle Alley, Whitechapel. There were 2 stab wounds to her neck, that severed her carotid artery, which is similar to Jack. There
Yeah.
were bruises and cuts all over her body, and there were a bunch of superficial wounds all over her body, beneath her breast and on her navel. But that seems like a de-escalation itself. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah,
uh,
unless he was interrupted, but at the same time, like if he was I mean, I feel like he was not the kind to be making superficial cuts,
no, he's
you
gonna
know,
go.
even if
He's gonna go balls deep.
yeah, right in the beginning. And
Oh yeah.
and I just don't see that. Yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
he's
Um.
oh
Again,
fuck around.
that that one is widely debated. Some people think it is Jack's. A lot of people think it's not, because it just doesn't match up. Um,
Yeah.
and it's the at best it could be a copycat, a very
Yeah.
bad copycat,
Well,
a very bad copycat.
sure.
Um, there's another one. We don't have a name for this one. We just have a
Oh.
description. It is called the Pinchin Street Torso.
Oh, Jesus.
It was
Torso?
a
Torso?
torso,
Okay.
which was a decomposing headless and legless torso of an unidentified woman between the ages of 30 and 40 that was discovered beneath a railway arch in Pinchin Street, Whitechapel, on September 10th, 1889. There were bruises on the victim's back, hip, and arm, that indicated this woman was very much beaten before her death. The abdomen was extensively mutilated, but her lady parts were not wounded, which is not
No.
conclusive with what Jack normally would do.
No. But maybe he got bored and like decided, you know what? I'm just gonna cut him up into pieces now.
Yeah.
I like cutting them up into pieces. No, he likes them whole, just eviscerated. I don't think the
Yeah.
torso is him.
And the rest of the body parts were never found.
Yeah.
Though it's believed that those pieces were transported to the railway arch, and then hidden under an old chemist or something like that. They were never found regardless.
They probably are gonna wash up like this year. Watch that. Like so
If they
that's
haven't
how it
already.
happens. That's how it happens. Yeah,
Usually,
the
yeah.
Thames is always washing up some weird shit.
Yeah.
Always.
And the final of these 4 is Frances Coles. She was discovered on the 13th of February, 1891 at 2:15 a.m. by P.C. Ernest Thompson, and she was lying beneath a railway arch at Shallow Gardens in Whitechapel. Her throat was deeply cut, but her body wasn't mutilated, which made people believe that whoever it was, it could be Jack, and it could be the same thing as one of the previous victims, Stride, where he got caught in mid ritual.
Yeah.
But
then there wasn't another one.
There wasn't. We don't know. She was still alive, apparently, but died before medical attention showed up.
Oh, so then it wasn't that deep.
It was deep, but she just wasn't dead. She was caught, or whoever it was there just prior to Thompson getting there.
Okay.
And
so,
to back up,
I mean, it must have been like seconds, though. I mean, it must have been seconds. Like if your throat's slit, I mean, how long do you live realistically?
Not very long. You will bleed out pretty fast.
No.
Yeah. But this one, I can kind of see why it would possibly be Jack. Because, number one, the wounds on the neck. And it's very similar to Stride. And two, she's a prostitute.
Yeah.
Which that isn't said about the other three prior to this.
Maybe it's a separate one though. Maybe there's one who killed Stride and Holes.
Possible.
And then somebody killed the other 4 or 5 or however many we have now. I guess 4, because if we're removing Stride, then
for with this particular person with Coles, somebody was arrested for her murder, but was discharged for lack of evidence in March.
All right.
So, yeah. And now we're gonna get further into lore.
Yeah.
There are other alleged victims.
Oh my god.
There are other alleged victims other than the 11 Whitechapel murders.
There's so many.
There are so fucking many. It's the rabbit hole goes deep, guys. The rabbit hole goes balls
so
deep. Goes
How
balls
are there
deep.
more? Oh my god, it's so crazy.
So, one of them is called Fairy Faye.
Oh, Fairy Faye.
We're not sure if this was fabricated or real, but it was a nickname given to another unidentified woman whose body was found.
It may not have been real.
Yes, it might not have been real. Whose body was found, or allegedly found, in the doorway close to Commercial Road on 26th of December, 1887. So this is prior to the canonical 5.
Okay.
And the 2 prior to that. And apparently a stake had been thrust through her abdomen.
Okay, so that sounds like a vampire.
Yeah, that doesn't... That's just weird.
Why was she? Is that why she was a fairy? Because she was a vampire or something? I don't know. Is that how you kill? That's how you kill vampires, stakes, but in the heart, not the stomach.
I don't know. But here's where the shit kind of comes, where we think this came from. It's possible that Fairy Faye was created because the press report for Smith's murder got confused. And that could have been confused because something was shoved up her vaginal cavity.
So it was this. So okay.
The thought is that it was a press report that got confused with Smith, and it's widely agreed that this never existed. The next one is a 38-year-old widow, Annie Millwood. who was admitted to an infirmary in Whitechapel with numerous stab wounds to her legs and torso on the 25th of February, 1888. She said that she'd been attacked with a clasp knife by an unknown man. She was discharged and died of natural causes on the 31st of March that same year. It's thought she might be an earlier victim of Jack, but it's not likely. Yeah. It's not likely. Another pre-canonical victim is a dressmaker named Ada Wilson, who survived being stabbed twice in the neck with a clasp knife.
Oh dear.
On the doorstep of her home on March 28th, 1888. And another one is Annie Farmer, who lived in the same house as Martha Tabram, and apparently reported an attack on the 21st of November in 1888.
Oh God.
She had a superficial cut to her throat, and it said that an unknown man with blood on his mouth and hands ran out of the lodging house shouting, "Look at what she's done," before an eyewitness heard somebody scream, and it's postulated that she did it to herself to get away with something she'd fucking done. And here we go with another headless torso. This one is called the Whitehall Mystery, and it was coined after...
How many fucking torsos are... Like, why is this common? Why aren't the torso people, like... Why isn't that a separate serial killer?
I don't know.
One torsos
it could
in
be
the
a
water.
Separate serial killer altogether. Could be.
Okay.
But this is the Whitehall Mystery. That's what it's coined. When a headless torso of a woman was discovered on the 2nd of October in 1888 in the basement of the new Metropolitan Police headquarters being built in Whitehall.
That's a big fuck you to the police.
Yep. It was this body was basically found in the construction site of a Metropolitan Police headquarters.
Jesus.
An arm and shoulder belonging to the body. What was that?
That is a big fuck you.
Oh, that's a big middle finger. 2 big middle fingers. Where was I? An arm and shoulder belonging to the body were found floating in the River Thames near Pimlico on the 11th of September. And the left leg was found buried near the torso on the 17th of October. Everything else was not recovered. And that body was never identified.
That seems like somebody, like, probably like a gang or something.
Maybe.
That was just like, fuck you, cops. Do something. You can't even solve this. I don't know.
But here's an answer to what you were saying earlier about it being a different killer.
Yes.
The Whitehall Mystery and the Pinchin Street case, which is the 2 headless bodies, were believed to be part of a series called the Thames Mystery. And is thought to be done by a serial killer called the Torso Killer.
All right, so the Torso Killer is a...
Yeah. It's debatable whether Jack and the Torso Killer are the same people.
Okay.
And that's because the modus operandi of the Torso Killer and Ripper were very different.
Yeah.
Another one that could be attributed to the Torso Killer is Elizabeth Jackson, who was a prostitute, and her body parts were found all over the place. All
over the place.
In a 3-week period. Over a 3-week period. So her body parts keep floating out of the Thames for over 3 weeks.
No.
Starting in June 1889.
How did they even identify her? Oh, God.
Don't know. Probably because she had her head.
Oh, yeah. That'll do it.
The other ones didn't.
Okay.
Now, this one is very different, and this one is a little bit disturbing. On the 29th of December in 1888, John Gill, a 7-year-old boy's body was found in a stable block in Manningham, Bradford. He was apparently missing since 2 days prior, on the 27th of December. And his legs were severed, his abdomen opened, his intestines partly brought out, and his heart and one ear were removed.
That does sound like him.
But it's a boy.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. So I'm thinking it might be a copycat.
Maybe. Oh, maybe.
Here's one reason why it definitely could not be him. The boy's employer, 23-year-old milkman William Barrett, was arrested twice for his murder.
Oh, William.
But released due to insufficient evidence. Nobody was ever prosecuted. Prosecuted. Too many hoes.
Way too many hoes.
Too many hoes. It looks like the last one, the very last alleged victim that we're going over is Carrie Brown, who was strangled with clothing and then mutilated with a knife on 24th of April, 1891 in New York City. Here's where your America comes in.
Oh, no.
Her body was found with a large tear through her groin area.
Oh.
Superficial cuts to her legs and her back. However, no organs were removed, but an ovary was found on the bed.
I mean, that sounds like it could be.
It could be.
Although strangled with clothing.
I don't think strangulation was part of his
MO.
MO.
No.
So, now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and look at the investigation a little bit. Most of this is obviously done by the London police. And a lot of their files are gone. They were destroyed during an event called the Blitz. And that was part of the German bombing in 1940 and 1941.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the Blitz took a lot.
This is a cursed fucking case because there are so many reasons why this is never going to be found out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sticking to it. Any files that survived show basically the same procedures of, the Victorian era law enforcement. House-to-house inquiries through Whitechapel.
Were they destroyed during the Blitz, or was it part of an occult ritual?
It's saying pretty definitively that it was during the Blitz.
I'm sure.
I mean, a lot of shit was destroyed in that part, that moment in time. I mean, with how many bombs went off. House-to-house inquiries were made throughout Whitechapel. Forensic material was collected and examined, which they can't really do fucking anything with because they don't have the same technology we have today.
Yeah, what the hell are they collecting?
I don't fucking know.
What forensic material? Body parts? That's all they have. Pictures. They took pictures.
There's a bunch of suspects. They're identified and traced and examined and eliminated from the inquiry. And now that we've brought that up, let's go ahead and talk about some prospective suspects. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them.
So many.
And they're split up in different categories. On the Wikipedia website that details all this shit. I mean, this is gonna take a hot minute.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanna make them wait for another weekend because this is gonna get really long.
I mean, hey, I'm always down.
I'm down, fucking down. What do you think, chat? Do you wanna be held on the held hanging on a cliffhanger and then get another stream next weekend, or what do you think?
Let me check what's next weekend. The 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm good on the 9th.
Okay. I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to cut it here.
Here,
TBC, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, there's
6,
so many.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. There are 31 that are named specifically, and then there are further theories. So there's 30 plus suspects that are possible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, there's 30 plus. So that and everything else can be a stream of their fucking own.
That is like, so good.
Literally.
Good, and then maybe my new computer will be here for that.
That would be dope.
It would be dope. I'm pretty pumped about it.
I would be too. I was pumped when I got my new mic, so.
Yeah.
Yee.
Oh yeah, no, my computer's old as hell, so.
Yeah, right.
That's why I'm on my old ass laptop.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
We are going to conclude part 1 for now. And we will come back next week and on the 9th, same time, and finish this puppy up.
Yes.
So, you want to go ahead and say goodbye to the viewers?
I could do that. Chat, I love you. Mike, yes, it is weird that you find this stream relaxing. And I love you all. Goodbye.
All right. Have a wonderful night, guys, and sweet nightmares.